Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Cynthia Ng. Malaysia-Singapore VTL kicks off with thousands of people crossing the border. And both countries say they are open to reviving the high-speed rail project. That's coming up. Joyful reunions for families as the Malaysia and Singapore border opens today. On land, the vaccinated travel lane using designated bus services kicked off this morning with passengers crossing from both sides of the Johor Causeway. The land border between Malaysia and Singapore has shuttered for nearly 2 years due to the pandemic.
It's surreal, doesn't feel real at all because it's been a while not coming home. And then the process of coming home is also a bit hiccup here and there. Have been feeling very nervous until I stepped foot here.
Already since past about 1 year plus, I never meet her. So then when I see her today, I'm happy, very happy.
I'm lucky this BTL open so I can save a lot of money. Otherwise, last year, I need to quarantine 14 days Malaysia, 14 days Singapore, and cost me total about 3,000 plus already. So it's very lucky this time.
Under the first phase of the VTL, only 1,440 travellers are allowed from each side daily. They must be citizens, permanent residents or long-term pass holders. Both countries also launched VTL flights between Kuala Lumpur International Airport and Changi Airport today. Fully vaccinated VTL travellers will be tested for COVID-19 but will not have to quarantine after arriving at their destination. Malaysia and Singapore aim to keep reopening more borders despite governments around the world imposing travel restrictions to curb the spread of the Omicron COVID variant. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob and his counterpart Lee Hsien Loong said discussions are ongoing to expand land and air vaccinated travel lanes to include general travellers from mid-December. Discussions are also underway to pilot a sea VTL for cruise ships between Malaysia and Singapore. Both leaders said this at a press briefing to mark the reopening of borders through the air and land VTL. However, Lee said any move on reopening more borders will take into account the public health situation. He said even if the Omicron variant disrupts these plans, the goal will still be to have more open borders between both countries. Ismail Sabri, meanwhile, said his discussions with Lee also touched on expanding air travel between Singapore and other destinations in Malaysia like Penang, Langkawi, Kuching and Kota Kinabalu beyond the capital city. A COVID-19 case was detected at the Johor Causeway through an on-arrival antigen rapid test conducted at the entry point today. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said he does not consider it as something which can derail the VTL. Instead, he said it should be an example of how pre-departure and on-arrival testing are necessary preventive measures. Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong said the Republic is open to fresh proposals from Malaysia on the Kuala Lumpur-Singapore High-Speed Rail HSR project. Lee said both countries' transport ministries would discuss the matter and Singapore looked forward to receiving more details from Malaysia despite both countries had previously agreed to terminate the project. On January 1, 2021, Malaysia and Singapore jointly announced the termination of the HSR project as both countries failed to reach an agreement on changes proposed by Malaysia before the project agreement lapsed on December 31, 2020. In March this year, Malaysia announced that it had paid 318 million ringgit to Singapore for costs incurred for the development of the HSR project and in relation to the extension of its suspension. Lee said this in the joint press conference with Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob that was held in conjunction with the launch of the land vaccinated travel lane in Singapore. Issues related to 200,000 unemployed migrant workers in the country who are registered under the Labour Recalibration Programme will be resolved before the end of this year. Home Minister Datuk Seri Hamzah Zainuddin said the government had discussed the issue with several companies involved in recruiting foreign workers to re-employ them. According to him, priority will be given to foreigners who have registered and have been listed under the program to get employment, as they are already in the country. On November 2nd, Hamza was reported to have said that 212,926 foreigners and 11,751 employers had applied to participate in the labour recalibration program, covering several sectors, including manufacturing, construction, agriculture and plantation. The RTK antigen and RT-PCR tests are effective in detecting the Omicron variant of COVID-19. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin said he was informed of this by experts from the Institute of Medical Research. He also said the Health Ministry will step up genomic surveillance to detect the new variant. Khairi added that a further study on the variant will not only involve detection tests, but also on the effectiveness of the vaccines. The other thing that should be looked into, according to Khairi, is the ferocity of the Omicron variant. Early reports from South Africa, which has a low vaccination rate, show that the Omicron has only caused moderate symptoms. However, Khairi said more data and reports concerning the variant are needed before deciding the best way forward. Pakatan Harapan's poor performance in the Malacca state election has had supporters demanding not just a rethink of political strategy, but also calling for a renewal of its leadership. Tonight on Consider This, we take a good hard look at the coalition's future with DAP strategist Liu Chintong. We'll take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Japan became the latest country to tighten travel restrictions after a new variant of COVID was detected in South Africa. Japan announced the closure of borders for all foreigners traveling to the country starting tomorrow. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said the measure aims to prevent a worst-case scenario in Japan. The decision means Japan will restore border controls that it eased earlier this month for short-term business visitors, foreign students and workers. Japanese citizens coming back from 9 countries, including South Africa, and 14 other countries where the Omicron variant has been found, will also have to undergo stricter quarantine in designated facilities. Kishida said the exceptional measure is taken until better information is obtained on the Omicron. Many countries have moved to tighten their borders, even as scientists warn it is not clear if the Omicron is more alarming than other versions of the virus. But many countries rush to act, reflecting anxiety about anything that could prolong the pandemic that has killed more than 5 million people. Much is still not known about the Omicron variant, including whether it is more contagious, more likely to cause serious illness, or more able to evade the protection of vaccines. The World Health Organization said it is working with researchers across the world to answer those questions. But understanding the level of severity of the variant will take days to several weeks. The WHO said that it is not yet clear if the new variant is more transmissible compared to other COVID variants or if it causes more severe disease. It noted that preliminary evidence suggests that there may be an increased risk of people who previously had COVID-19 being reinfected with Omicron. The new variant was first identified in South Africa, although it is unclear whether it originated there. WHO said that while there are increasing rates of hospitalization in South Africa, this may be due to increasing overall numbers of people becoming infected, rather than a result of specific infection with Omicron. What scientists do know is that the variant has an unusually high number of mutations, with more than 30 in the key spike protein, the structure the virus uses to get into the cells they attack. South Africa's president has condemned travel bans enacted against his country and its neighbors over the Omicron variant. At least 44 countries, including the UK, EU and US, have imposed temporary restrictions on travel from the Southern Africa region over the new variant. Cyril Ramaphosa said he was deeply disappointed by the travel bans as there was no scientific basis for the restrictions and that Southern Africa was the victim of unfair discrimination. On Saturday, its foreign ministry strongly criticized the travel bans, saying the country was being punished instead of applauded for discovering Omicron. The WHO has warned against countries hastily imposing travel curbs, saying they should look to a risk-based and scientific approach. However, numerous bans have been introduced in recent days amid concerns over the variant. Omicron has now been detected in a number of countries around the world, including the UK, Germany, Australia, Israel and Portugal. Australia will delay reopening its international border by 2 weeks after reporting its first cases of the Omicron COVID variant. The country was due to allow vaccinated skilled migrants and international students entry from December 1st. Australia has so far found 5 Omicron infections among travellers arriving in the country. Under the current rules, permanent residents and fully vaccinated travellers from New Zealand and Singapore are allowed into Australia. The relaxation of rules planned for December 1st would have added fully vaccinated Japanese and South Korean citizens to the list of those who could enter, as well as eligible visa holders. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said the pause on border reopening was necessary, as it would allow the government to consider issues like the efficacy of the vaccine and the impact of the variant. And that is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and the Astro AWANI app. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching.